Fortunately, we don't get to play or control the artillery. So they're placing you in an entirely historical scenario where things didn't occur the way that perhaps they should have. I'll go over again just a little bit of context in one day what I would love to try to do, which is to take on Pickett's charge from the Confederate perspective with an ability to actually be able to control perhaps the artillery from maybe there's an alternate history scenario where you launch the infantry an hour earlier at around 2 p.m. instead of 3 p.m. like you see here in the game scenario. I think that would be really interesting to be able to do. You don't get to do that here in this Scourge of War setup. One of these days I can maybe dig into the files and figure out how to do that for myself. But the reason for that is something that I explained in our last playthrough when I was on the Union side as I kind of observed the attack beginning to fall apart at Cemetery Ridge, is that if the rebel artillery had been able to advance itself, rolling forward and itself being able to continue to punish anything that tried to come around the flanks of the Confederate push by the 12,000 or so infantrymen that made the charge, that things might have gone a little more according to General Lee's plan, at least temporarily. I think that it's safe to say that it would have been difficult for the Confederates to properly coordinate their left wing around Culp's Hill in coordination with the big punch at Cemetery Ridge. So we'll go back to something that I talked about in one of my earlier playthroughs when I was still working on some of the July 2nd stuff, and that is how what the entire struggle kind of boiled down to was Lee, once it was established that the Union had taken possession of Cemetery Hill and had established a strong position there, the Confederates' main objective from that point forward was to figure out how to apply enough pressure on this flank and this flank simultaneously to pinch the Union forces enough to scare them down off of this hill and push them back, and then from there carry the field, essentially. This is on the third day of Gettysburg. This is Lee's next attempt at trying to do exactly that. The lines, the armies had effectively gotten smaller. They'd lost quite a bit of men. The lines had kind of condensed a bit, certainly on the Confederate side. And Cemetery Ridge was indeed, not as strong as perhaps it could have been on the afternoon of July 3rd. As a matter of fact, in history, a war council happened late the night, July 2nd, where all the Union generals made a decision about whether or not they would go ahead and attack the Confederates, whether or not they believed it was time to retreat the army because it had been so badly battered, or whether or not they should stick on the defense and hold out. And the vote was overwhelmingly to stay on defense. Meade even suspected that the next attack would likely come toward the center of his line. So the Union forces were, or at least the high command anyway, anticipating a move toward this area. Still had to guard the flanks, and General Lee, just with his, as General James Longstreet put it, his blood up, and there was no stopping him. Lee had made the decision that Confederate troops were going to be able to make this charge. And I know what has been surmised is that it was doomed from the start. The more I've learned about it, I'm not so sure. But I'm interested to see how we're able to do just controlling the infantry here. If in the game we're able to actually win. I will be surprised, number one, but I'll be interested to see what folks think about that. I don't expect to win the scenario, but we'll see.